My name is Roger Nicholson. I'm here asking for our water back. We consider it immoral and an illegal taking of our resources. This year's shutoff could amount to losses up to $500 million, according to our economists. It'll decimate long-term family ranches. My ranch has been in family existence since the 1890s, and we're essentially bankrupt if it doesn't end. The repercussions will go through the economy of Klamath Falls. With the multiplier effect, Klamath Falls will dry up with the loss of agricultural water. We keep an inventory of somewhat over 5,000 head of cattle at all times, and we're certainly not the biggest. The Klamath Basin has been developed, and a lot of the economy is based upon the cattle industry. My employees, my suppliers, and the whole group of people around us are totally dependent on somehow solving this water problem.
How desperate are you, both personally and professionally, to get this worked out?
It has to be for me. My family's been there for a long time, and we're essentially out of the Klamath Basin without water. There's no reason to be here. Absolutely no reason. It pains me to say that because we have been a part of the communities for over a generation. We have irrigated continually for over 120 years with adjudicated water rights, already adjudicated, that were guaranteed to us by the court system, and then for now the court system to re-adjudicate everything, to take Federal Reserve rights and put ranches that have been in Bly, for example. Some of those adjudicated rights are the 1870s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and to put those people out of business is unconscionable and un-American. The solution, it could be a combination of things. Obviously, the court systems will continue to go for many years. We're hopeful of a settlement where our rights will be respected and that there will be a balance of water in the Klamath Basin. Yes, there is a way to save the season. There is a stipulation in state law that calls for a stay on the process to sort of hinge between the administrative phase of this process and the judicial phase. And it is a stay that's guaranteed at a certain price, but that price is to be established by our circuit court judge. We hope and pray that he does it at a reasonable level so that our producers can produce and can still thrive until such time we get into his court case and get the decision reversed that we consider totally wrong. It's rapidly approaching with the hot weather that we're experiencing now. Pastures will be drying up and going away here in a week or two. It needs to happen, and needs to happen now. The state needs to be issued. And it'll all be determined right over there starting tomorrow in circuit court. I have moved a considerable number of cattle out of the basin already, headed to Washington to more reliable feed sources. Of course, the gain on the cattle will be lost, and understand that Upper Klamath Basin runs over 100,000 head of cattle. The pastures in the Sacramento and San Joaquin Valley are used for winter grazing. These are used for summer grazing, and then the majority of those cattle go on to the state of Washington for fattening. The whole livestock industry within the western states is under jeopardy by this. Klamath County is in the top 2% of all the counties in the whole nation for cattle numbers. Cattle is the #1 agriculture commodity in Klamath Basin, as well as the #1 ag commodity in the state of Oregon. It could, there was an estimate made the other day that the cattle out of Klamath County will feed somewhat over 1 million people. If that estimate is true, I haven't run the figures myself, that big a component leaving the nation's supply of livestock, when consider that our cattle numbers nationwide are the lowest since they've been 1950. Lowest since they've been 1950. It could just spiral, and food prices could dramatically increase. Directly, I would say there's over 500. There's over 500 ranches that could be permanently removed. Indirectly, the effects will reverberate clear through the livestock economy. As I say, Klamath Basin is integrally tied with the economies of California and Washington as well. And without the ability for summer feed here, the pastures in California have no value to a whole lot of ranches. I testified before a senatorial committee called by Senator Wyden last week in Washington, D.C. And through that and other various meetings that we had in Washington, D.C., it certainly became apparent that KBRA and dam removal as written is not an acceptable solution. What they call for is what we'd have right now, the complete elimination of a ranching community. We're hopeful those can be amended, and hopeful settlement agreements can be forged ahead with the Klamath tribe and other competing parties for the resources, and very, very hopeful that survival is around the corner with assurances of survival. I think the framework to unite it would be to have all parties agree that we need assurances on both ESA assurances, on affordable power assurances, and quantity of water assurances, just like the lower basin farmers received. And when that happens, we can join and be part of one integral group again.
And how important is that to you?
It's life and death. We're bankrupt without that. We strive and we hope for a solution other than the court system, but if it is the court system, we will be ready for that also.
So if you were to wave your magic wand, what would happen going forward?
The first thing would happen, as of today, we'd have a settlement agreement reached with the Klamath tribe, and the Klamath project would sign on to the premises of that settlement agreement, and it could happen in a matter of hours with reasonable people and at the table doing reasonable things.
over $200,000 worth of equipment right there side by side. That's not dropping the big line is coming. One of them's going to have to stop. Whoa, there we go, perfect. He knows where he's at. He's got to go there he goes, right? Thank you guys. There's another piece of water right there in the tractor. That's what we're here for today, to see it also, guys.
My name's Dennis Linthicum. I'm a Klamath County Commissioner. I'm here in support of basically this grassroots movement here in Klamath County to express the dissatisfaction with the political whim and allocation of a precious natural resource like water. Well, in terms of economic impact, it has long-term impact. Short-term is this growing season. Long-term is the next growing season. What does it do to land value when land goes fallow, when land dries up? What happens to the tax base of Klamath County, as well as what happens to those individual families? Their children and their grandchildren don't have the opportunity to utilize that resource because of political whim. There's $290 million in agricultural farm gate sales last year. So how does it impact that? By 30% or 50%? I don't know.
30% impact, negative impact.
Yes, yes.
What would that do to the Klamath economy, even those that aren't involved with irrigated agriculture?
Well, you know, you can do the math. That's 30% is close to $100 million. How does that impact the burger shop? How does that impact tax revenue coming into the county coffers? How does that impact the dairy farm up in Tillamook? How does that impact the cheese making agriculture that's using our alfalfa grown and raised here, transported there to create productive assets for our nation? You can imagine how difficult it is to get your hands around these economic impacts. It's extremely important to unite around this, and where you see the real dilemma is the KBRA, for example, doesn't focus or doesn't give any primary concern to water storage. So if we are in a global warming trend, if we are in a drought this summer, why haven't men and women been engineering water storage solutions? Because they're not required to. They can pretend that we'll use the limited resource that's currently available, which is a dwindling resource. Snowpack isn't saving water. The snowpack isn't saving water because there wasn't snowpack. And now it's running into the Pacific Ocean and turning itself into salt water all the way down, or into Central Valley irrigation water, or Central Valley usage in California. We ought to be storing every gallon of water, every acre foot we can store in Klamath County and use for our agriculture will impact our community in a powerful, powerful way. The foundation would be get government out of it. The political whim of Merkley or Wyden or Walden, and their engineering some sort of legislation is a faulty notion. The free market can provide better access to resource and more efficient utilization of that resource. Today, the government doesn't care if you're on marginal land or sub-marginal land. They're giving out water, and it's a free resource, nearly. So that means because I don't invest a lot of my own money in it, I can misuse it or I can use it inefficiently. If it were something that I actually owned as an asset, it had value and I could trade it or sell it in an open market arena, I wouldn't put that much water on my sub-marginal land. As a farmer, I'd make the mathematical calculation and I wouldn't use that much diesel in my tractor, and I wouldn't buy that much fertilizer because the return on my investment is so poor. If I had the opportunity to use those resources in that economic capacity on productive land, it would be a different game entirely, but that's free market economy. men would come to the marketplace, they would look around, they'd say, what we could use is more water, and they would innovate and create more water resources for sale in the marketplace because there would be incentive. Well, first of all, it takes forage resources to create beef in the marketplace, or create cheese in the marketplace, or create milk in the marketplace, or create strawberries in the marketplace. So the number of branches that sponsor out of a healthy agricultural industry is tremendous. Great to see this many people here today. Isn't this a great crowd? So it's good to see people coming out of the woodwork.
Well, it definitely shows how important agriculture is to the Klamath County and to the state of Oregon. There's an awful lot of people here supporting agriculture, and you know, you see a few log trucks in the parade, and when the log trucks go by and they say, you know, it's happened to us, it's going to happen to ag, that really makes a very, very good point. I think it's a solution, just agreement between all users. We have a limited resource, and we need to make an agreement that works for everybody. And right now we're split too much, and we need to make an agreement where everybody's at the table and it works for everybody. I think we have to say the KBRA is dead, because it's not going to get funded. And we need to take some parts out of the KBRA that work. We need to get together. I don't know exactly who's going to be the facilitator of that, but then we need to get back to the table with all the players and make it where the community is the decision makers, not the federal government, not any of the outlying people that have nothing to do with this community. We need to make it as a community.
Do you have a sense as to what aspects of the KBRA you think could be the foundation?
That's a tough one. That would have to be a study that I really can't say right offhand what I would pick out of the KBRA. But there's undoubtedly some good spots, you know, because it is helping a certain amount of people, you know, in certain ways, but we need to make it work for everybody. And I can't really say what those particular things are right at the present time, but you need to sit down, go through it, and figure out what we need to do.
115,000 acres of irrigated ground and 105,000 head of cattle. And I mean, that's not something to sneeze at. That's a... There's only been 113 vehicles so far, so keep counting. All right, keep counting. Look at that. Thank you guys, Cowboy. Good head, Cowboy. Thank you, Mike. Absolutely. Absolutely. with Mark. Thank you, Craig. We appreciate it. All right. There you go. All right. That's what we want to see. That big all right here in Klamath Falls. Thank you, guys. Absolutely. Yeah, we ain't got a reefer in here. All right. KBB Klamath Falls. KBB Klamath Falls. Stop treating us like we don't belong here is what the sign says. Absolutely. Thank you. Look at here. Hey, Ambrose. Surprised meeting you here again. Yeah. He took a left. He just kept staying left. All right.